Hi, welcome back to Pearls of Motherhood. I'm Diana, and I've been thinking a lot about capacity lately, mostly because I don't think I have any left. Okay, that's probably not entirely true. I think life is just being life right now. It's the end of the summer. My daughter's birthday is coming up. I'm trying to plan our party. There's the podcast, there's the house, there are appointments and things I need to remember, and things I've definitely forgotten. Those seasons where it feels like there are 12 open tabs in your brain and you're not entirely sure which one is playing music. That's kind of where I am right now. And nothing about it is particularly, remarkable. Actually, that's what I've been thinking about because sometimes when we talk about being overwhelmed, it sounds like something enormous has to happen, like a crisis, a major life event, everything falling apart. But sometimes life is just being life. And lately I've noticed that I'm moving through my days, a little differently. I'm not waking up thinking, what do I want to accomplish today? I'm thinking, okay, what actually has to happen today? And then I do that. The next day I do it again. And the strange thing is, I'm functioning. I'm getting things done. I'm showing up. If you looked at me, you probably wouldn't think, wow, she is really struggling over there. And honestly, I don't know that I would say I'm struggling. I think I'm just at capacity. And that distinction got me curious. What actually happens to us when life requires more than we comfortably have to give? Not when everything falls apart, when, everything just keeps coming. So, of course, I started researching and reading. And one of the things I came across was this concept called allostasis, which sounds much more complicated than what it actually means. Basically, our bodies are constantly adjusting to help us meet whatever is happening around us. Think about something really ordinary, like you're sitting on the couch and your child is playing in the other room, and suddenly you hear a large crash. Before you've even really had time to think, your body is already responding. Your heart starts beating faster, your breath changes. Stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol help make your energy available. Your attention sharpens. Your body starts directing resources towards whatever might be happening. You're suddenly more alert. You move faster, and you might be halfway to that other room before you've even consciously finished the thought, what was that? Your body basically said, we might need more from you right now. Let's get ready. That's allostasis. And it's amazing. We want our bodies to be able to do that. Then you get into the other room and you discover that your child just knocked over a giant bin of toys and everybody's fine. The toys are everywhere, but nobody needs the emergency room. Win. And then your body can start settling back down. Your heart rate slows down, your breathing settles, that surge of energy isn't needed anymore. And that's the system doing what it's supposed to do. But then I started reading about what happens when there isn't much of settling down. And that's when I came across another term called allostatic load. And this one really interested me because allostatic load isn't just I'm stressed. It's more like the accumulated cost of your body having to adapt over and over and over again. So if you think back to that crash, your body made all of these changes because for a moment it thought something might be wrong. We need more from you. Then everything was fine and it got to recover. Great. But now imagine instead of one crash, your body keeps getting messages all day that say, we need more from you. And I don't necessarily mean that you're constantly in danger. Maybe you're not. Maybe life is just, being life. Maybe you're sleeping a little less, you're thinking about more things, you're solving more problems, you're carrying more responsibility. Something needs your attention, and then something else needs your attention, and then something else does, and over again. And there isn't always a lot of recovery in between. Your body is really good at helping you adapt to that. But adapting takes something. Over time, repeatedly activating and adjusting systems involved in things like our stress hormones, heart rate, blood pressure, metabolism, inflammation, and even immune function can create what researchers describe as wear and tear on the body. That is allostatic load. And I think this was like my oh moment because I realized I have been thinking about capacity almost like a gas tank. I'm either empty or I'm not. If I'm still functioning, there must be something left in the tank. But that's not really what this research was describing. It was describing a body that can keep compensating. And suddenly I thought, wait, you can still be functioning while the cost of functioning is increasing? That felt really important to me because I think I sometimes treat my ability to keep going as proof that I'm fine. I handled it. I got it done. Everyone's okay. Therefore, I'm okay. And maybe I am okay. And now I want to be careful here because I don't think normal stress needs to be something pathological. Because sometimes we're busy, sometimes we're tired, sometimes Tuesday was a lot. But maybe being okay and being unaffected aren't the same thing. Maybe my body can rise to meet the demand and still need a recovery afterwards. Maybe I can be capable and at capacity. And that distinction has been sitting with me because I think somewhere along the way, I started treating my ability to handle something as evidence that it wasn't taking anything out of me. And those aren't the same thing. The fact that our bodies can give us more when life asks for doesn't mean that more is free. And maybe that's true beyond our bodies too. Because once I started thinking about capacity this way, I noticed something I do all the time. When life asks more of me, I don't necessarily ask less of myself. Sometimes I ask more. And I realized I was doing exactly that while planning my daughter's birthday. So, my daughter's birthday is coming up, and I love birthdays. I love making things special. I love thinking about what she's interested in right now and figuring out how we can turn that into something she'll be excited about. And this year, she's really into the forest, like the deep, deep woods, her words. So, I've been thinking about that and looking at ideas and trying to figure out what we can do. And somewhere in the middle of all of that, I caught myself thinking, I should be doing more. More planning, more ideas, more details, more making it special. And then I had this other thought. She's not asking more from me. I'm asking more for me. And that one stayed with me because suddenly I started wondering how often I do that. Life gets fuller. Our responsibilities change, our energy changes, our time changes. Something unexpected gets added. Life asks more from us. And instead of adjusting what we expect from ourselves, we ask ourselves for more too. Like, I still expect myself to be present, productive, creative, patient, healthy, a good wife or good mom, a good co host, keep the house going, remember everything. And apparently throw a really good forest theme party too. And none of those things are bad. And that's what makes this complicated. I want to do all of them. I care about all of them. But maybe that's exactly why capacity is so hard for me to recognize. Because when everything matters, how do you decide what gets less of you? And that's when I started wondering if maybe I've been treating this as the wrong kind of problem. Maybe this isn't actually a time management problem. So for a while, I think I treated capacity like a time management issue. If I could organize better, if I could plan better, get up earlier, use my time more efficiently, surely I could fit everything in, right? And sometimes that works. I love a list. I love a plan. I love the satisfaction of checking something off and thinking, look at me, I conquered Tuesday. But lately, I've been wondering if there's a point where efficiency stops being the answer. Because you can organize your time, you can prioritize your task, you can make the world's most beautiful color coded calendar, but you cannot create more emotional bandwidth by putting it on a schedule. And that was an uncomfortable thought for me because if the answer isn't do it better, then maybe the answer is do less. And I don't like that answer, to be honest. I really don't because do less sounds suspiciously like care less or be lazy. I don't care less and I'm not lazy. So I kept thinking about that. I've noticed I started doing this thing lately. I look at the day and basically ask, okay, what is the minimum version of today that still works? Not what's the most productive version of today, not what would make me feel really accomplished, just what actually needs to happen. Okay, my daughter needs me. The important things need my attention. Everybody needs to eat. Okay, everything else, we'll see about it. We'll see. And there's actually a concept in business and product development called minimum viable product or MVP. The idea is that when you're creating something new, you don't necessarily start by building the biggest, fanciest, absolute perfect version of it. You start with the simplest version that can actually do the job it's supposed to do. So, for example, let's say you're creating an app that helps families make a shared grocery list. Eventually, maybe you want this thing to be amazing. It'll organize the groceries by aisle. It'll suggest recipes. It'll remember what you normally buy. Maybe it'll even compare prices or remind you that you're almost out of milk. Great, wonderful. But before you spend all that time building every possible feature, you need to know whether the basic idea even works. So the first version might do one thing, like I can add milk to the list on my phone, and my husband can see milk on his phone. Okay, that's it. It's not the final product. It's not everything you hope it'll eventually become. And when I read about that, I thought, oh my gosh, I've created minimum viable motherhood. Actually, that might be a t-shirt. A minimum viable motherhood. I'm writing that one down. But that's not actually what minimum viable actually means. It doesn't mean what's the least amount of effort I can possibly put into this. It actually means what is essential for this to work right now. And suddenly that felt very different because maybe there are seasons when I need to ask the same question about my day. Like, what is essential today? My daughter is cared for. She knows she's loved. The thing that genuinely needs my attention got my attention. We ate. Maybe that's enough. And tomorrow might be different because this isn't supposed to be the final version. It's the version that works for the circumstances we're in right now. And I think that's the part that clicked for me. Maybe doing less in one area isn't evidence that I care less. Maybe it's how I preserve enough of myself for something that matters more. There are days when I have a lot to give. I can plan the activity, cook the dinner, record the podcast, go to the gym, and feel really good about myself. And then there are days when everybody eats and I remember the appointment, and that's it. Both days count because capacity changes. But for some reason, I expect my output not to change. And why is that? That's the question I couldn't quite shake. Why do I expect myself to operate at the same level all the time? Because I would never expect that from anything else. We understand that seasons change, work gets busier, kids need more, bodies get tired, families go through things, sleep changes, life changes. But somewhere along the way, I think a lot of us absorb this idea that a capable woman should be able to absorb those changes without anybody noticing, especially a capable mother. We say things like, I've got it, I'll figure it out, it's fine. And sometimes it is fine. I don't want to say normal life is pathological because being busy doesn't mean something is wrong. Feeling tired doesn't necessarily mean you're burned out. Sometimes Tuesdays are just a lot. Can you tell Tuesday's been a rough one for me? But I think there's something worth noticing the difference between I can do this and I have room for this. Because those are different questions. And I am very good at answering the first one. Can I do it? Yeah, usually. Give me enough caffeine and internet access and I'll give it a shot. But do I have room for this? Ugh, that's a question I don't ask myself nearly as much. And when I started thinking about this question, what gets left behind? I started asking that question and I noticed something else. When my capacity gets tight, the things I drop first aren't the things that matter least. Sometimes they're the things that belong only to me, like exercise, reading, calling someone back, sitting down, eating, or doing absolutely nothing for 10 minutes without making them productive. And that made me uncomfortable too. Because if every time life gets demanding, I solve the problem by removing myself from the equation, eventually, what exactly am I preserving all this capacity for? I don't know. I don't have a perfect answer to that. I'm still trying to figure it out because sometimes things genuinely do need to be sacrificed for a while. That's life, that's family, that's motherhood. There are seasons when someone needs more of us. And I don't think every sacrifice needs to become a conversation about self care. Sometimes you just do what needs to be done. But maybe there's a difference between temporarily putting something down and quietly deciding that your needs are always the most expendable ones. I'm still trying to figure out where that line is for me. And maybe that's why the end of the summer is making me think about all this too. There's something about this time of year. We're still technically in summer, but you can feel it starting to change. The days are still long, we're still doing summer things, but school supplies are appearing in stores. Everyone's talking about fall. The grocery store has the cinnamon brooms out. And somehow my daughter is about to have another birthday, which feels impossible because I swear I just planned the last one. And I have this instinct to grab onto all of it. You know, we should be doing more summer things. We should make another memory. We should go somewhere. We should enjoy it before it's over. And there's that word again, should. And I caught myself doing it recently, trying to make sure we're adequately appreciating the end of summer, which is a very efficient way to make enjoying summer feel like another assignment, right? And my daughter doesn't seem particularly concerned about whether we're maximizing summer. She can find a fascinating bug in the backyard. She can spend an absurd amount of time investigating something I would have walked right past. She doesn't seem to be thinking, oh, we're in August, we need to make this count. She's just there. She's present. And I'm beginning to wonder if maybe I don't always need to create more for her. Maybe sometimes I need to notice what's already happening. That's different. Maybe enough is enough. And I think that's where I'm landing right now. Not on some grand solution for how mothers can increase their capacity. I'm actually starting to question whether that's even the goal. Because everything I've been thinking about assumes there is some ideal level of motherhood I should be able to maintain. And maybe there isn't. Maybe enough is enough. Maybe enough during a quiet season looks different from enough during a demanding one. Maybe enough when your child is sleeping beautifully looks different from when nobody has slept. Maybe enough when you have support looks different from enough when you don't. Or maybe enough today doesn't have to look like enough 6 months ago. I mean, that sounds incredibly obvious when I say it out loud, but I don't think I live like I believe it. I think I keep moving the circumstances while leaving the expectations exactly where they were. And I wonder why I can't reach them. And this actually brings me to a message from one of our listeners. Here's some listener mail. Rachel from Denver, Colorado writes, my family has been going through a difficult season for almost a year. There have been medical appointments, changes at work, and some challenges with one of our children. I feel like I've become the person who keeps everything moving. Everyone tells me how strong I am, but I don't feel strong. I feel tired. I'm doing the basics, but I don't feel like the fun mom anymore. We order food out more. The house is always behind. I turn on the television more than I want to. Sometimes I worry that my children will remember me as stressed and distracted during this part of their childhood. How do I know when I'm giving myself grace and when I'm just not trying hard enough? Because isn't that the question? How do we know? When we start letting things go because life is asking more of us, how do we know whether we're adapting or whether we're giving up? And I don't think I have a perfect answer for you. I'm still sitting with a version of that question myself. And here's what I'm starting to think. You haven't stopped caring. Actually, everything in your message tells me how deeply you care. You're noticing the takeout. You're noticing the television. You're noticing the house. You're noticing whether you're fun. You're noticing what your children might remember. Maybe the question isn't whether you're trying hard enough. Maybe it's whether you're expecting your effort to look the same in every season. Because right now, your effort may not look like homemade dinners and outings and a perfectly kept house. Your effort may be going somewhere else. Maybe it's in the appointments. It's in keeping things moving. It's in making sure your family gets through a difficult season. And I keep thinking about the part where you said, I don't feel like the fun mom anymore. Maybe you aren't right now. And maybe that's okay. Maybe right now you're the mom your family needs for this season. That doesn't mean the fun version of you has disappeared. It doesn't mean she's never coming back. It just might mean she isn't the part of you being called on the most right now. And I think that's very different. I've spent a lot of this season talking about becoming. Who are we becoming? What do we want? What fits our family? What fits us? And maybe that's why this particular thought has surprised me, because maybe becoming doesn't always look like adding. Sometimes it looks like recognizing what we can't carry right now. Sometimes it looks like changing the standard. Sometimes it looks like saying, this matters, that matters, I matter, and I cannot give 100% to all three at the same time. I'm still not really good at that at this part right here. I'll probably finish recording this and immediately think of 4 other things I should be doing. But I am starting to notice when I do it. When life asks more of me, and my instinct is to ask even more of myself. And maybe noticing is enough for now. Maybe the next time I hear myself thinking I should be doing more, I can stop for a second and ask, who is actually asking more for me? Because sometimes the answer might be my family. Sometimes the answer might be the circumstances. Sometimes something genuinely does need more of me, but sometimes it's just me. And maybe that's the part I can put down. If this conversation resonated with you, I'd love to hear what enough looks like in your life right now. How has your capacity changed without your expectations changing with it? You can email us at ideas@pearlsofmotherhood.com or find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Threads at Pomcast. That's POMCASTS. For now, maybe life is just being life. And maybe you don't have to respond by becoming more. Sometimes you can simply adjust what you're asking of yourself. Until next time, remember, you do you, mama. Talk to you soon. Bye.